Thank you for joining us on the Winning and Selling Podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
Son of a nutcracker. The prospect just told me that they're looking for a couple of other vendors for this deal. I hate it when that happens. I know our product is good, but what can I do to win this sale? What you can do, my apoplectic sales professional, is take some notes as Scott and I discuss winning a competitive sale and other challenging topics on episode 595 of the Winning at Selling Podcast.
Did you just come home from watching the Christmas Carol?
That's not Christmas Carol, that's from Elf.
Is it apoplectic? Is that
apoplectic? Apoplectic. Okay. You got to figure out these words. I use big words for you,
man,
Scott.
The word of the day. We have some great news that we'd like to share with our listeners.
It'll make me apoplectic to hear this news.
Okay. Pipe Drive came out with their 2023 top 22 sales podcasts to listen to, and we came in number 2.
That's pretty good.
We're really grateful for all of our listeners that put us in that position. And I'm just so thankful that our listeners give us the time in their lives to be able to listen to Bill and I and to consider absorbing and applying some of the information that we share with you.
Son of a nutcracker. That's a good deal.
That is. So
you can link that on our show page?
We'll have a link to that. So you can check it out and see what else is on the list. And we encourage salespeople to find a podcast that gives you the most information to better your skills and to improve your results. So if you're not finding it with us, I'm okay with you looking at other places.
But if you do like us, tell your friends.
Yeah.
Tell your colleagues. Post it.
Rate us, give us a rating, a 5-star rating. Be grateful. Any comments that you'd like to share with us going into the new year? Bill did a great episode on getting ready for 2024. You can check that out on our show page. And what topics do you want us to share? What guests do you want us to have? Put us to work. And
we're always trying to figure out a new topic, so help us there.
Yeah. And what challenges are you dealing with? Because again, Bill and I have said many, many times, our solutions have no value unless they stick to a problem or a goal. And we want to drive the show based on what you are looking for. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the book, our new book, The Go Giver, chapters 1 and 2. I have not read this book before, so I'm really pleased that we have it as part of required reading. If you're a host of the podcast, you've got to read it. But the title comes from the go-getter. He's a real go-getter. And the main character's name is Joe, and Joe is struggling like most.
He's a go-getter.
Yeah, he's a go-getter, and he's got a mindset, though, that, I am not going to give something unless I get something, or I'm not going to, what's in it for me type of attitude. And you can kind of see his approach in the first 2 chapters with the characters that he talks to. And Joe is kind of in a situation where he's not making his quota. He's got to bring this deal in with the big kahuna.
He's a bit me-focused, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very much.
Very focused on Joe and what can you do for me? And I think a lot of us fall into that trap.
I think it's subconscious. We hit survival mode. We're on commission. We want to get as much money as possible. We make every decision based on our mindset. And if we change our mindset, our behavior is going to change. And that's the first thing I noticed about Joe is he's just got this negative mindset on how to really influence people and how to have great conversations and how to build positive relationships.
He thinks everyone else thinks like him. And I think we all fall into that trap that everyone else is going to treat me the way that I'm attempted to treat others. So if I'm a go-getter and I'm trying to get as much as I can, I'm assuming everyone else is trying to grab from me. And I have this limited pie. There's only so much pie out there, and I've got to get my pie. And the bigger piece I get, the less other people get. And when we have that limited pie mentality, then we think everyone's trying to take something from us. And it's a very difficult way to live.
Yeah. Yeah. So through a conversation with Gus, he ends up getting introduced to Brenda, who's the secretary to the chairman. And the chairman is sort of the sage, the Yoda that's giving this information. And if you've ever broken down a story of a movie or the victims and the hero. And I mean, I can just see it coming together in the first 2 chapters. Well, Joe talks to Brenda about having a meeting with the chairman, and Brenda says, "Yeah, sure, I'll set it up for you tomorrow morning." He goes, "Well, wait a minute, tomorrow morning is Saturday." Yeah, he'll meet with you Saturday, 8 o'clock. Here's the address. Go to his house, and he goes over to the chairman's house, and he's getting to know the chairman. And the chairman wants to, share his trade secret with Joe. The trade secret is giving, so that's going to be the theme of the book. It's all built on giving.
The go-giver, then.
And yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I kind of give away in the title.
Well, they give it in the first chapter, so what are you going to do?
And Joe sort of really struggles with this, and the chairman makes a deal with Joe that I'll meet with you again if you follow my rules. And my rules are that when I teach you it, you have to apply it that day, and you have to tell me what happened and come back and tell me. And Joe's like, "Well, I could lie." And the chairman said, "You could lie. I would not know you're lying, but you would know you're lying." And that's not something that I think you want to, continue life with, knowing that you're lying to yourself. And wow, that was really powerful. And then there was another line in the book that, how you treat the world is you get what you expect, and you get what you focus on. And I read the line, "You get what you focus on." It's like, okay, that's true. Salespeople get what they focus on. And they go, how come I read it? Why do we struggle with focus? I mean, when we go to the dentist, and I was at the dentist on Monday, I was in the chair focusing on that cavity being filled in. I was not thinking of anything else. That was the only thing on my mind. How come we can't do that when we're out in the sales role and working with our prospects and customers, is having that tremendous focus. So I think
it's not just that we get what we focus on, but we get what we expect. And again, I think that's Joe's problem. And I think that's going to be the journey that has to go on. And that is, he has to change his mindset, which is a very difficult thing to do, from one who wants to grasp and take to one who is going to give, whether it's service or better quality or better focus on other people, as you say. He's got to change that mindset. And that's a very difficult thing to do, but he can't have that grasping mindset. And I think the other thing that's very interesting about this is that if you look at the way we finished Spin Selling, we talked about 4 keys to change, the changing. And one of those was you have to apply what you're learning right away. He said, try it 3 times,
right? Yes.
Or you reject it. And that's what the chairman is asking. None of this, listeners, great listeners that we have, nothing works unless you apply it. And you need to apply it with intentionality. The chairman is forcing Joe to make this decision to do something intentional with the ideas that he gives him, or don't bother me. Don't waste my time. And if you've ever been in any kind of a mentoring situation and you get mentored and then you come back the next week for your second mentorship and you say, "Well, I didn't really have time to try it out," the mentor's going to say, "What are you wasting my time for?"
Right.
Wasting your time listening to good ideas and not doing anything different.
There was a brief little conversation within this chapter about the woman who serves the coffee, and they're commenting on how great the coffee is, and the woman says, "I'd really wish that I could share it with the world." And Joe says, "Yeah, you could make a killing on this stuff." And the chairman corrects him, like, this is sharing it with the world, not making a killing and profit. So you really have to look at the mindset and our actions and our words. And are we sharing it with the world, or are we wanting to make a killing? And this is what really challenges me with people that think salespeople are only motivated by money. And I think this book is going to hit that mindset head on, because if you go into the marketplace and you go, "I want to work with people to give them a better life, better results, and I'm going to give my solutions freely," and I'm not saying that you give everything away, but you're going to talk to people about it. You're going to give them advice. I mean, Bill and I do talks. I mean, reading this book, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, if we're practicing what we're preaching in the book, Go Giver. I mean, I've hosted sales meetings for companies just once. Go, "Hey, let's have a meeting. Let's host a sales meeting, and let's just finish this sentence. I could sell more if only I could ... How would the salespeople finish that? And then facilitate a 90-minute meeting. I mean, anybody's interested in that, contact Bill and I will be glad to have a conversation with you about that. But that's where it all starts, is giving the advice and apply and then encouraging people to apply it that same day.
I want to tell a story about you and me, Scott. You might not even remember this story, but I remember this story. So maybe it was 5-6 years ago. I had just taken over as the leadership of PSA.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in some kind of a situation, and I don't remember what it was, but I said, well, if you want a good sales trainer, Scott's a really good sales trainer.
Mm.
And you came up to me afterwards and you said, well, I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, we kind of compete with each other. And I said, Scott, I believe there's more than enough business in this town for you and me.
Yeah.
And I think that was the start of our relationship changing from just people who knew each other to people who could work together. And eventually we started doing more together. We started doing the podcast and a lot of little things. But I think that was kind of the beginning when you saw that I wasn't trying to compete with you.
Right. Yeah.
But we could work together. Do you remember that situation?
I do. I do remember that. And I remember when I was doing a presentation when Steve Kloida was still president of PSA, and it was recorded. And then Dan Littman went and interviewed people. You were gracious. I mean, you gave me a wonderful testimonial that's on my sizzle reel. And I was always grateful for people that I work with in a way, but are still trying to survive in the marketplace with doing similar work. And when you have colleagues that you respect, it just makes it so much easier to sort of hang your head high as you go out into the world. And there are a lot of people that will not make a public commitment to their profession. Bill's been running PSA, Professional Sales Association. I ran it, from 2011 to 14, and there are people that are in the training and development business that do not attend that group. They're not making a public commitment to their profession. And why? Why do they just want to stay in their home office and not do anything? It's making a public commitment to your profession and being held accountable to your reputation in all of your actions. And everything that we do, we have to really wonder and ask ourselves, is this a good thing to do? What do I want to win in this? How is this going to move the ball down the field? Or how are other people going to feel after we have an encounter together? And my definition of a salesperson is one that has an impact on the experience and an influence in the outcome. So every conversation, you have an impact. Every conversation then has an ending and an influence. What are people going to do differently after the conversation? And how are they going to feel once they stop talking with you at that time?
And that's the power of giving, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to explore that. I'm looking forward to, I think there's 5 principles.
Yeah.
We're going to look at in this book. So all right. Well, our topic for today is winning a competitive sale. And I do think, as I've watched salespeople, they find out they're in a competitive sale and they don't do anything different. They just hope that things work out, right? Hope is not a strategy. They hope that their normal sales process will get them to the finish line. And this is a big mistake I think most salespeople make, because they think their product or service is better than the competition, because they've been told that so many times in all of their product training, that the prospect will see how great their product or service is and choose them. And they don't think strategically, and they don't think that they have to do anything different. And that's what I want to talk about today, is what do we need to do? How do we need to change our thinking when we find out we're in a competitive sale? And what can you do different? So I think the first thing you have to do in a competitive sale is you really have to learn about what the situation is from the customer. You have to ask a different set of questions, and hopefully you have a reliable champion that will give you honest answers about this. If you haven't cultivated a champion in a organization who wants you to win, you may not get honest answers. But some of the questions that I like to ask: how many other vendors are involved? Who are they? What does your organization see as their advantages? Why did they get included in the mix? What's your criteria for the decision? What's the thing that's going to help you choose the winners from the losers? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it service? Is it terms? Is it longevity? Is it guarantee? What are the criteria that you're going to be making for the decision? When is the deadline? I think so many salespeople get caught because they don't know when this decision has to be made, and they're still thinking about getting ready to get started. And the prospect is going, well, let's get rid of that one because they don't meet the criteria. And then who else in the company is involved in the decision? Who else is going to be part of this? Because I need to get to know everybody that's going to be involved in this decision. And these are big things that we go into that competitive sale and we either can't or don't try to find out.
So true. And I think another question to ask, I mean, it kind of relates to the first one, is how many vendors are involved. I think sometimes a great question to ask for salespeople to ask a prospect is, besides me, what other options are you considering? And there may be another company. They may decide not to do anything, or they may decide to do it themselves. Sometimes companies are able to do it themselves. Now, that's not always the best way of doing it, because somebody that is outside of a small organization has a more developed skill set in a certain area, a subject matter expert, that is going to be able to bring more information to a smaller business than a smaller business hiring somebody without knowing everything that's going on in the marketplace. But I love the question about the criteria. I just don't see that often enough with salespeople asking prospects, what is the criteria that you want to use to base your decision on? And that's where us as salespeople need to insert different things into the criteria that play to our strengths. So great list, Bill.
Yeah, I really like your question about what are the other options. And I think that's when you can ask, and even when you're not in a competitive situation,
right?
Because
Absolutely.
You may not realize you're competing with Larry in the other office who says he can do this thing. And so they're thinking about Larry, but they don't think it's a competitive situation. But now it really is a competitive situation, because one of the options is we'll do it ourselves.
Right. So, definitely.
Good. All right. Number one, that's number one. Ask good questions and find out about the situation. Number two, don't badmouth the competitors, but also don't talk them up. So I think you need to let the competitors do their own selling. The thing that I always say is, hey, that's a fine organization. Let me tell you about what we do. And I get them off of the competitors. But I never, if I badmouth the competitors or I say something about them that's even slightly negative, I think then they'll come to their defense. And the last thing you want is the prospect defending your competitors, because once they start putting themselves in that competitor's shoes, you're starting to be against them and not against the third party. So get the customer focus back on what you do well. And then I think it's also fair to set up hurdles for the competitor to overcome. And this is your differentiators. Here's something we do really well. If you know who the competitors are and they don't do it well, you can say, you might want to check with the other people you're talking to see if they do X, Y, Z, because I think it's really important. Do you think that's important? So set up these hurdles that those companies are going to have to go through in their next presentation, where your champion is going to stand up and say, well, can you guys do this? And that's the frustration that you want to bring to the party for them.
Yeah, and that puts the obligation on us as salespeople to come up with a unique selling proposition that is not very common amongst the competitors. That's going to help us keep more clients, so that we're not in a competitive business to take clients away from somebody else. But I love the comment about don't badmouth the competition. And this is so true. When somebody mentions the competition, I say, I've heard good things about them. I'm not saying good things about them. I've heard good things about them. And here's another thing that I hear salespeople do all the time, is when they ask that question, who's taking care of this now, or who are you buying from now, or who's the incumbent, is really what you're competing against. The salesperson responds with, great. I go, wait a minute. don't say great to somebody that you're trying to sell and make them change their mind. You say, I've heard good things about them. That's it. And you move on. But when you badmouth the competition, you could be insulting the person that brought them in before, because they're sitting across the desk from you.
That's right.
And it's not going to end well for you. I tell you right then and there. But, I've been in situations where they're like, we're looking at other options. I said, oh, okay, well, besides me, what other options are you considering? And they'll go, well, we're not really comfortable sharing that. I said, I understand. I've been in this town for 25 years. I know a lot of people. I see a lot of people come and go. And if you tell me that you're working with somebody or you're talking to somebody and they're great, I'll tell you, I've heard good things about them. Or you tell me something I've never heard of them, I'll tell you, I've never heard of them. If they're not good, I'll just keep silent. And that'll say it all.
Right.
Because
I think you can also ask the question in that area. Well, tell me what you like about their proposal or what they've showed you. I would never ask, tell me what you don't like about them. At least not at this point. They'll usually tell me. If I ask what do you like about them, what did you find intriguing? That's going to give me some information about the criteria for their decision making as well. And what I find is that often they'll say, but we also, here's some challenges we have with them. You seem to disagree with that.
I like the temperature close, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the current provider? And they probably would, be a little low because they're looking for a change. So they might come back as a 7 or an 8. And you go, well, that's pretty high. What do you love about them? What do you love about them? This is an emotion. You're getting them to express the emotions. Well, we love this, 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 this. And I said, I noticed that you took off 2 or 3 points. What's missing that you wish that they would do? And then when they share that with you, now you know the gap that you have to fill. You have to deliver what they love, and you have to fill the gap of what they don't have that they want.
Right.
And in reality, you're just selling the gap. You're just selling those 2 to 3 points to get them over to your side.
But I think that's a different conversation, though. That's dealing with an incumbent.
Right. True.
And I think that's a different situation than it's comparable, but it's a different kind of competitive sale, I think, than I was focused on. But that's okay. Maybe that's a topic we can handle at another time, that incumbent, because that brings its own set of problems.
Yes, it does.
The emotions that they don't want to make the change, the change of the systems that the people in the back office don't want to do. So there's a whole nother group of things. But I in this case, I think we've decided they're looking for somebody new, and we're competing with somebody else that's kind of coming in as we are. So set up hurdles for them, find out what they like, find out if there's some challenges. I think those are all good ideas. Anything you can learn is going to help you. And that takes us to number 3, investigate each competitor. You need to learn about the competition and find their website. Go find, do you have any customers in common? Because if you're selling electronic parts, they might be buying some of them. You may have customers that buy from that competitor that you can go get some good information from. Do you know common people on LinkedIn that maybe have worked at that company before? Maybe you have somebody internally that's worked for that company before. That can give you a lot. Just do a regular Google search. Check the Better Business Bureau. What internal resources do you have? So there's a lot of places you can go to investigate. Here's some of the questions that I asked. Scott will have a couple more, I'm sure. What do they claim to do well? What are their differentiators? What does their competitive product or service look like? So what are they doing? How are they different from you? How are they similar to you? Do they have any unhappy customers? Is there some place you can go to do a Yelp type review? Maybe the Better Business Bureau will tell you that. What's their pricing strategy? Are they a low price, a low baller, or do they maintain value? You need to know that, because that's a different kind of sell. If they're a low baller, you have to help the customer focus on what they're not getting from them that they would get from you. Has your organization lost any sales to them in the near past, or have you bested them in a recent sale? If so, what did you learn? By the way, that's going to be a later one, but if you're not learning from your mistakes and from your wins, you're missing something out. So, and do some investigation about what they do well and what they don't do well.
Yeah, and all of that really contributes to their reputation. I enjoy working with companies that are philanthropic about supporting the industry that I am and the events that I go to, and giving me more information and more knowledge to do my job better. Those companies are making a public commitment to support the industry and their reputation. And that's external. And you have to believe that most likely it is also internal. It's the ones that are internal, challenges internal, that they never show externally. So you don't really know what's going on, good or bad.
Yeah. So get focused on that customer, or that. So get focused on that competitor and figure out what they do well. What are you really competing against? I'm going to start getting into the sports analogies here, but I would think that if a football team is going to play another football team, they might watch some video of what that team does and find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, right?
Yeah,
it's NFL time right now. So that takes me to number 4. Stay in the game and don't drop the ball. These are my sports analogy time on this one. But I remember very clearly, I don't remember how many years ago, but the Patriots were playing the Falcons in the Super Bowl. And the Patriots were down like 24, 30 points going into halftime. They had played like crap the whole time. And you just thought, this is a shoe-in. Well, the problem is the Falcons thought it was a shoe-in too. They quit playing, and the Patriots stepped up their game. And all of a sudden, the Patriots won the football game. And I think we do that in a sales situation too often. We just say, hey, let things go as they will. We're doing pretty good. Here's how we do things. And we just go to our same old process, and we don't figure out that the competitor is out there killing us because until it's too late, because we're just not paying attention. So stay in the game. I think the competition can be over before you know it. And if you're not keeping in contact, close contact with the customer and providing more value, you're going to get left in the dust. So always think about providing value. You've got to have that challenging conversation with the decision makers. You've got to dig deep and be the person who finds out what the real problem is and how much it'll cost if they make the wrong decision. You've got to get them worried about the decision because you know that you're going to provide a better solution for them. You need to build trust. You need to get involved with everyone in the decision-making process. You need allies and information, and you've got to have involvement. That means you can't go with your same old process anymore. You need to build trust with valuable information, testimonials, and doing what you promised to do. I know that's a strength of you, Scott. You talk about always do what you say you're going to do to build trust. Finally, you got to get them to buy into your value proposition. You've got to get them to agree that what you do differently and well is going to be the thing that they make the decision on.
Yeah. All very good points. Getting back to that Super Bowl, I remember that game, and it was something, I can't remember the score, but the Patriots did come back, and I used that in a class. And I go, what do you think they did in the locker room during halftime? Do you think they got on some of the Nautilus machines or started pumping a little iron, getting the shape skills wise? No, they got their head on straight. They figured out in their head what was going on. And that's how important a mindset is when you change that mindset, you start changing your behavior. And it's amazing how inspirational those halftime speeches can be. And for some reason, I'm thinking of the movie Miracle right now. And that Herb Brooks speech was just so powerful. And there's some great stories about that game too. But
I think you really find out who can coach at the locker room at halftime. Who's going to make the changes necessary and who can inspire their team to do something different. Unfortunately, we don't always have coaches to do that. We need to inspire ourselves. We need to think. But if you do have a good sales manager who's a mentor and is intelligent, take your ideas to that person and find out what he or she has to say.
Right.
I think that's really crucial. All right, my last point, number 5, save your concessions for the close. I think too many salespeople make concessions early in the process. This might be on price, terms, value add that they're going to give, and they give away early what they need to close on because they think they need to do that to stay in the game. It's kind of like the guy that came to my house to put in some gas pipe, and he said it's going to cost you $1,500. I said no, it's not. He goes, how about $8? He gave his concession away pretty early, and then I said no, it's too high because I don't trust you. So be careful, hold on to your concessions. If you're dropped early in a sales process like this, shows that there was a lack of trust, or you're way too far out of the competition to save it with a few concessions, or maybe it's both. So giving early concessions isn't going to help you to stay in, and then you'll really have no ammunition at the negotiation. I think you need to find out what your customer wants the most, and then use that as late concessions if they want to close the deal with you. So you use those concessions thoughtfully. Don't give them up. And I think too many salespeople just give them up right away. They even say things like, well, yeah, that's our price, but we can work on that. That's not your price, man. Your price is something else if you can work on it right away. So
you just took a 25% hit on your price when you say that, because that's what's coming out of the prospect's mouth. And like Bill said, I mean, does the prospect respect you as a salesperson when you end up doing that? I mean, I've heard one sales trainer say, never negotiate with anybody unless they've committed to buy from you. And it's like, wow, okay. And I said, that's really hard to apply because they have to buy from me and then I negotiate with them. I thought we negotiate before we make a commitment. No, it's more of an if then, or suppose we could put this together. This is what we could do to get started. Offering something like that once they've committed to work with you. So if anybody's asking for a discount, I think a good response is, have you decided to come with us? Have you decided to go with us? Are we the company that you're going to pick first?
Right.
Because why are you negotiating with somebody if they haven't picked you as to go with you? I wouldn't negotiate with them. What is there to negotiate? You're just giving stuff away.
And try and stay in the deal. You're giving stuff away because you think that'll keep you in the deal.
Right. But your respect goes down. And that's what people don't really think. Oh, great stuff.
All right. Well, let's go to resources. Scott's going to link us to that pipe drive. Article that he talked about at the beginning of the show. I want to remind you, if you want to join us on PSA, Professional Sales Association, January 5th, we'll have David Cornell and his Cultivate Courage. He's a very good speaker on that. Go to psamn.org.
Yes, we've had Dave on the show before. It's a great episode. Our golden nugget for today is the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing, by Edmund Burke. And I don't know much about Edmund Burke, but I've heard that line before. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And in this context, men means everybody, not just men.
All right. So the quote, the links, all this information is going to be at winningatselling.com. Look for it there.
Again, next week, we're going to be covering chapters 3 and 4 from the book Go Giver. And the topic is going to be when good sales calls go bad. Please subscribe and share this podcast with your colleagues and on social media.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.